Yes.
Okay. So today we're talking more on building your own MCP server. So we're talking about, as the topic was supposed to be, moving from local to production. So if you have been in my last section, I explained a bit about what MCP is and a little about the basics of MCP. So maybe a little information about me. So my name is John Roberts. I had a bachelor's in computer science and then a master's in AI and machine learning. And then I founded don'tfearai.com, which was focused on information about AI. And now what I want to do is actually to teach more on topics in AI, like software 3.0, like MCP agents and things like that. So that's what I'm going to be focused on my Don't Fear AI. Now, previously I worked at Mercedes self-driving cars, where they build the autonomous driving at Mercedes. Also at Bosch, I worked on self-driving cars. I've been doing AI since about 2018, and presently I'm a senior and the lead data and AI engineer at NEPAC, which is the mother company of the company called Sonic Lighthouse. I speak in a lot of conference. I've spoken in PyCon Germany, spoken in PyData. This year, I'm going to speak in the US in Airflow. Actually, that is confirmed already. Later in October. And apart from AI and data, I do a lot of traveling. Traveled about 40 countries. I also like a lot of investment. Doing a lot of investment also in real estate in Germany. Yeah, that's a little about me. But today we are not talking about me. We are going to talk about MCP. Just want to have an idea. How many people were in my last seminar, or who was not in my last seminar? I just want to have an idea so I know um how what to do. So okay, a few people. Um, okay, okay.
I think
So
about 40%.
yeah, 40%. Wow, that's quite a lot. I'll try to explain a bit about what MCP is because we have a lot to do today. Because today we are going to do more on hands-on, so it takes quite a lot of time. But I'll try to explain in a simple way. So MCP is not a new model. MCP is not agent. MCP is not RAG. MCP is just a way to connect to AI models. That's what it is. So we have just like they call it the USB-C of AI. So USB-C, if you have an electronic device like a laptop, you can charge your laptop with USB-C. You can charge your phone with USB-C. Now with Samsung, with iPhone, with any type of phone, you use USB-C. So what the USB-C is just to connect electricity to your computer. That's what it does. Now, what MCP is to connect tools and to connect tools, data, and information to your LLM. So normally, if you go to, as I presented in the last seminar, if you go to ChatGPT and you ask like, what is the temperature in Berlin now? ChatGPT does not have information about the temperature in Berlin because it needs to go online. And that's why maybe let me try to see if I can just quickly show it. I already showed this in the last seminar. Let me see if I can show it again. Where is my let me see if I can show it. I already showed it in the last class where I showed a bit about what where is my okay, so I'm just trying to what? Yeah, this one I want to show. So if you go to ChatGPT and you ask what is the temperature in Berlin, you'll see something called tools. So in ChatGPT these days, you have something called tools, and these tools are like they can be connected with MCP. So we just ask ChatGPT what is the temperature in Berlin, ChatGPT needs to use this tool called searching the web. So you have different kind of tools here, and these tools are like your phones or your electronic device, and the way they connect to AI LLM models can be, you can use what they call MCP. So that's why we have things like tools here. So I don't want to go too deep into that today because it's a lot of information to give. So all you just need to know is that MCP is a way that LLMs connect to tools like Python functions, like JavaScript functions, like searching the web, like whatever. And on ChatGPT and on most LLM models or most websites that uses LLMs these days, you already have tools. And what they use sometimes is they use MCP. Yeah, it's a bit confusing, but just have it in mind that it's just a way to connect LLMs to tools and to more information. That's what MCP is all about. Now, to go deep into what we have today, because it's going to be a long day, we have this architecture of MCP. MCP uses what we call the client-server architecture. So just focus a bit on what they have. So just three things you need to know. There's what we call the clients, and then there's what we call the servers, and then there's what we call the protocols, or now it's sometimes called the transport, which you are going to see later. So the host is just as you can see here, the host is just something that hosts the MCP clients, and then what they do is you have the LLM application and that want to access the MCP. So the host will host the client and also manage things that happen between the clients and the server. And then the server is what we build. You can also build the clients on your own, but it's a bit complex. Today, we are not going to talk about how to build clients. We'll focus on how to build server. And then the protocol is just connection between a particular server and a particular client. At the end of the day, today we'll come back to this place to understand how and what we did. But let's just go a bit forward. So this is how it works. It's a bit complex sometimes, but it's not too complex. It's easy. As I said, just focus on what is called client and what is called server. In the client, we have tools, or in MCP, we have tools, resources, and prompts. Today, we are not going to do a lot about resources, resources and prompt templates, because prompt template is just creating a template and then you can use variable in template. We'll focus a lot on tools to be a bit specific. But just to have an idea of what they have, so tools are Python functions or any type of functions that can do something. So a tool can be, as you can see already on ChatGPT. So if you check ChatGPT as I showed you, all these are tools. Now, for these tools, you can also have resources. For instance, they need to read a database, they need to do something else. You can also have resources for the tools. And then you can also have a template so that if you see many times when you want to write a prompt, you can always write maybe something like, I am a researcher, I do this and do that and do this, please do this and do that. So you can always have a template of what to do, and then there are just few things that change, and that's where you have prompt template. So it's just a prompt, but then you can always adapt it to something new. So we're not going to talk so much about prompt template. It's not so important for this. The most complex thing or the most interesting thing also is the tools. And today what we are going to do is we are going to build a MCP server tools together. Yeah, the other part, as I mentioned previously in this place, is the client. For the client, you can build your client yourself, but it's quite complex because it's low level. So what we are going to do today, we are going to use already made clients. So we have a lot of clients that you can use. There is a list, I think I have it. If you check, so there is a list of MCP clients you can use. So we have this Cloud Desktop, we have Cursor, most people know Cursor now. We have JetBrains, which is which they use PyCharm. You have a lot of them that you can use, and you can see most of them, which is the reason why I said we should focus on tools. Many of them sometimes don't support prompts and resources, but all of them support tools now. That's another reason why I do want to focus a bit on prompts and resources, but most of them support tools. All of them support tools, but most of them don't support prompts and resources. So you can use any client. Today, what we are going to do, we are going to use three different clients. We have the client, let me go to the next slide. So today we are going to try three different clients. I have a client that is called MCP Inspector, which you can run locally. We are going to use the cloud desktop client also, and then we can also deploy on Render, which is a client that provides, it's just something like AWS, but not AWS, that provides a remote desktop for you, and then you can deploy your MCP server on it. Now, you can use any programming language, but today we are going to focus on using Python because Python is easier to learn and it's simple to understand. You can use many different languages. And then we are also going to use a Python manager. Most people use, you can use Conda, some people use Poetry, some people use Pip, whatever. It doesn't matter what you use. You can use any of them to manage your packages. But these are the major things you need to know. You need to know the clients that we're going to use. I'll show you the three different types of clients that we have or that we're going to use today. Programming language is easy, Python, and then I'll show you how to do it. Does anybody have any questions before we go hands-on? Because when we go hands-on, I want people to already have a good understanding of what is happening. Majorly, what you need to know, again, is you have the clients. Today, we are going to use Inspector, or we are going to use the cloud desktop, or we're going to deploy on a Render. That's going to be the client. We have the MCP server, which we are going to build by ourselves now, very soon. And the protocol, we are also going to see how the protocol works, the kind of protocols we have for the transport. So does anybody have any questions, just to make sure that no one is lost when we, let me see. I'm trying to see trying to look for my, any question? No question? Does anyone have any question? Not yet?
Okay, I think we're good. Yeah, for now we're good. Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Okay, so let's go. Let's start coding. Let's see. So let's start coding. I'm going to open a new tab because I already created some already. So we are going to create a new project. Let me just create something new from let's see. I'll just create a new project. So here I'm going to create let me try to see. Oh, it's opening this place. Let me move this other one to this place. So I already created something before, but let's try to create it from the beginning. Let's create something new. So I'm going to call it. So I'm just creating a new folder called applied AI MCP demo. So this is a new project, and let's open a new window. So we start from the beginning. Here we have project. Project. Yeah, so this is just an empty project. Nothing is installed yet. So normally you can use Poetry or whatever package management you want to use. But today I'm just going to use the UV. You can check online for what UV is. UV, you can check. Let me just show you a bit. So UV is just it's just something similar to I think they also have it on their website where you can see, yeah, so it's similar to Poetry, So it's just faster than poetry. So on today we just let me go back to the so we can just start a new project and we just do UV init. All it does is just to create some information here, which is what you need to start a Python project. We can, okay, this is called main. And now let's go to exactly what you need. Just a minute, let me move the rest of my, so I don't get confused with a lot of screens. Okay, so one thing that is very important when you are creating MCP is the MCP. You need first to import this. So we can remove all this, not important. You need to import MCP, Fast MCP. So this is the library that is used for creating MCP server. And because of this, you need to install the Fast MCP library. So to do that, you first let us create a virtual environment. Here we have a virtual environment already, and then you can. I'm not sure if everyone has used Python before, but virtual environment is just to create a local environment where you can run whatever you want to run. So that's what it is. So all I'm doing now is just basic Python or things that we do in Python. So I'm going to activate my virtual environment now, and then I'm going to install. Then I'm going to install the MCP CLI. Yeah, I think this should work. Install MCP. Okay, I think this should work. What have done? So all I'm trying to do is just to install. Yeah. So all I try to do now, if you check here, we just installed MCP CLI, which is what we import here. And let's do, after you have done that, the next thing you need to do, just to be fast, I'll copy a few things. You need to create the name of your MCP server. So here, I can just do Fast MCP, and then I can give the name of it. So I can, this one I can just call it applied CI demo. There's nothing else. So that's just the name of the MCP, nothing more here. Now, one thing, as I mentioned before, for you, when you're creating an MCP server, you have tools, you have prompts, and you have resources. As I mentioned today, we are going to focus on just creating tools. So let's create a simple tool. To create a tool, you need to use MCP.tool. That's, you have to create the decorator called MCP.tool, and then we can create something simple, which would just be a add function to add two numbers together. And then we can also have another function to subtract two numbers. That's all these tools are doing. We will do something a bit more complicated later, but I just want us to have a very good understanding of what happens. So that's the first thing. We have the tool. We can also have resources. As I said, today we don't want to focus a lot about on resources. So we have the tool. The tools are just Python functions, as you can see here. Now let us just see how you can run it. So this is also basic Python. And what is important here is what they call transport. When you see other transports we can use, we have the standard IO, we have the SSE, and now we have the stream HTTP. But we'll see how this work very soon. So this is a basic MCP server. Now, let us try to run this MCP server on a particular MCP client. To do that, let me just show you a very basic example already on MCP website. I think they call it, if you check Python MCP SDK, they have a very basic one, which is what I'm showing you here. So basically, just what I did now, I'm just going through it again. So all you need to do is just you create a new project, a Python project. You install the MCP CLI. You can use either UV or you can use pip. Doesn't really matter. And then the next thing is how to run it. As you see here, they created a tool, basic tool. So all you need to do is use this to create the name of the server. Use this to create a tool. For tools, you just use at mcp.tool, and then for the resources, you also use at mcp.resources. Now, once you've done that, now you need to connect what you have done to a client. And first is you can, I'm going to show you two ways. The first way we want to do is using the MCP Inspector. To use the MCP Inspector, you just need to run UV. So you can either run it like this, or you can also run it using UV run, or you just run MCP dev, and then the name of the file, our case is called main.py. And if you do that, under normal circumstance to run, okay. If you see this error, it's not a problem. It just means that I'm already using the port that the MCP wants to use. What I do, I need to kill the port. So I need to see what is running on this port. So we have so how to kill it. So you need to know the ID of the process. So why you have this is because there is a process running on the MCP port. And what I do is I just need to know the ID of the process, and then I can kill that process. So we have, it's called 81252. MCP used two ports, so it used the 6277 and it used the 6274. So I need to also kill anything that is on 6274. So then you have also this, I kill any process on this. Okay, now if I run it again, it should show me something. Yeah, now we go to, gives us MCP Inspector. So first we are using this is a client, this is an MCP client. If you check already in the first overview I told you, we have MCP host. So this is the host. The host we are using now is the MCP Inspector, and it contains the client. As I mentioned previously, another thing to know is you have what is called this protocol. Sometimes it's called transport. We have three types of transport we can use. We are using the standard O because we are running it locally. You can also use the SSC, which you're going to see later. The streamable HTTP is quite new, but we may get there today, but it's quite new. So now we are just going to use the the standard IO, and then the command we need to run is we can run using UV run, and then the path to the file. Let's go here. I can copy the path to the file, and then I paste it here. Yeah, and then something else you need to also copy is the proxy. It is here, and you have configuration. You add the proxy here, and then you connect to it. So already here, you see that it's connected. As I said, you can see all the things you can do with MCP here. Well, here we have the tools. We have a list of tools that we already created in our MCP server. So a recap again, these two tools you see here are the two tools that you see here. So if you add resources, whatever, you see everything you put there. All you need to do is mcp.tools, mcp.resources, and mcp.template. And you can see, you're going to see them here. So here it says it adds two numbers together. We can just put like 4 and then 5, whatever, and you can run it and it gives you a good result and a good result. So this is the first steps of creating MCP. You create a server like you have here. Servers are just Python codes. The tools are Python functions. You can connect your MCP server to a client like MCP Inspector, and then you have the transport type. Here already we use transport type as standard IO, and you select standard IO here, and you just run it like a normal Python. That's one client, using one client. The next interesting client you can use is to use the cloud desktop. To use the cloud desktop, you need to you need to add it to your cloud desktop, and you need to create a JSON file, and the way to create it, it's already written here. Let's go again on the, so you can just do MCP install, and then it is going to create a JSON file for you. Okay, here we can run it again, MCP install. Most times it's good to just use, if you are using UV, it's good to add UV run MCP install and then the name of the file, which is in.file. So as you see, it said added applied, oh, I made a mistake in the spelling, applied AI demo that's added it to the cloud desktop. Now to check, let's go to the cloud desktop, which is a different client. Let me show you some different. So this is cloud desktop. To know if what is added was right, you go to cloud, you go to settings, and then you have developer, and you can see edit. So once you click edit, it opens this, and here you have a JSON file. So the JSON file you have, it shows, this is the JSON file you need to have in the so I have a lot of, let me see how I have a lot of tools already there. Let me just copy one that is important here. This is all that is important. I have it somewhere already. Let's see. Where is this? Okay, so here we can let's just focus on it. So I created a lot of MCP servers previously. So what that is important is, one, the name of your MCP server, which will be similar to the name you have here. So I made a mistake now, that's I have to keep on with the mistakes. So you have the name of the MCP server, the UV command. Sometimes you can just use UV and it's fine. And then this will be created once you run this UV MCP install. So you have this JSON file. In the next one, we are going to do something more interesting where you see how MCP can help you add new events to your calendar. So if you do this, you save it, and then if you go now to cloud, you need to close it. You need to close cloud again, and then reopen it. So if you add a new one, you need to close cloud. Now, if you check, we go again and check if it's there. Settings. So you have settings, and then now you have the clouds, you have the MCP server running. And how you can check on cloud again is to just come here and you have tools like you have on, if you check ChatGPT, as I showed you previously, just what everybody use. If you check ChatGPT, have similar interface. So ChatGPT has these tools. Now we have also on our cloud server, on cloud desktop, we have tools, and we can see this applied AI demo, and you can see the two tools that are there. Now, normally, I mean, this is just a simple thing. So you can say, can you add 1 plus and 10? So if you run that, it tell you if it needs to use yeah. So now it tells you, can I use this MCP server, and you can tell it, yes, use the MCP server, and then it can give you the result. So this is something very simple just for you to get an understanding of what it is. Again, what we are doing today is we created an MCP server, like you can see here in this main file, MCP server that can add two numbers together, and then we deploy this MCP server to an MCP client. We tried first, we deployed on the inspector, as you can see here, and then again we deployed on cloud desktop. Now let me do something that is a bit more interesting. We are going to use MCP to create an event on our calendar. So what, as I mentioned previously, what if you go on ChatGPT and you tell ChatGPT, for instance, I have an event today, add it to my calendar. ChatGPT cannot do that because, yeah, it's just going to tell you, like, it can't do that because it doesn't have any information about what you want to do. But now we are going to do something similar, and we use MCP because MCP will have a connection to our calendar. To do that, I've written the code before, but I'll try to explain the code again. So I create a new file which I'm going to call Google or MCP calendar. Doesn't matter. So let me just call MCP calendar or MCPR or PY. Again, what is important is the name of your MCP, and then you need to import this. This is going to be a bit more. If you understand Python, it's just basic Python code, but it's just going to be a bit more. You are going to have more information. So let me just copy a few things that is important. First, we need to import a few things which are not very where is it? Okay, so we import this because this is going to give permission to our calendar. That's why we need all this. And then we can create the new the MCP name as we did previously. So here, as we did, we just create an MCP server name. We can just create the same thing here, and we call it we can call it calendar. You can call it Google Calendar something. Yeah, Google Calendar MCP. So we need something else here. I'm going to try to get fast. I'm going to copy it and explain everything that it's doing here. It's a bit more complex, but not so much. So first thing you need is to create the tool, and we have a tool here. Now, this tool is going to help us to add an event to our Google Calendar. To add an event to our Google Calendar, like if you open Google Calendar, normally you need to put the time, then you need to put what exactly the description, the location of it, how many people are going to attend, or if you want to add anybody. As you see, it's optional, it's not important. If there's a reminder, and the time zone, just like you do on your Google Calendar. Here, what we need some information from Google Calendar so that it can connect to my own calendar, because it doesn't have access to it except I give it some access. And then here, just to be sure that everything I added when it comes to this with the access is they're right, and then at the end of the day, it sends this to the Google Calendar. You'll be able to do it. So don't be overwhelmed with the old code that you see here. Just know that it's just a function that can add calendar. This add calendar, you can do it normally without using MCP. So you can write any kind of function, but I'm just doing this just for you to have an idea of what you can do. Another thing which I will just copy is I'm copying my .m file. I'll delete most of my password later. So this .env contains all the password that I need, and that's why we need you import it. So I'm going to also add the import for the .env. So here we're supposed to already have the import. So this is just to import the .env, to import all the information, all this information you have here. They're just basic Python things that you do. And then, so this is the function you need. This is the tool. So the next thing is just to run the tool. Yeah, I'll add also run it tools here. So all these are not important. I can remove all the logs. Maybe I should. I'm adding the logs because the log is just to help us in case something breaks that I know what happens. It's not, that's nothing to do with MCP, it's just basic Python. Yeah, so this is all the code we need. As you know before, we need to add some dependency because previously we didn't have some dependencies. So I'm just going to add all the dependency to this our environment. So to do that, we also use UV add, and then I had my dependency. Okay, I need to remove this. So we have. So I need to add the dependency from Google's authentication. Then this also n.env. So these are just basic Python things. What else is not? The commas. So I'm just removing the commas so that I can install everything. Yeah, so once you run everything, if you go to your project file, you can see all these new things I just added. So the .env, which is to read things from the .env file, then the MCP, which we really need, and this one is to connect to Google Calendar. So if all these are done already, the next thing is just to we'll test it again with what we have done before, so we can run UV run, and then this time we are going to run MCP. We're going to run MCP dev, and then let me check to see if we have the protocol. So here we have the transport, which is ST standard IO already. So here we just need to run MCP calendar. Let's hopefully the same problem we have before. So why we had the problem is because the previous one we are running has not stopped. To stop it, you can just do Control C, and that is going to stop all what is running before. And if I run it now, it shouldn't give me an error. Okay, so let's go. If you go again now, we have standard IO, but now the file we want to run is different. So we are going to run MCP cal. So we can copy the path here. And here we can put what we want to run. And then we need configuration. We need this token that is here. And then it should work. So it's connected. To see what we have only one tool, which is called create event. Again, what the tool is this one. So anytime you create something and you have it, this is the tool, which is create event. If you see here, it gives you all the information you need. So to just make things a bit faster, I can just write something. So let's create an event that we can add to our Google Calendar. So let's just call it, I can call this one applied MCP tutorials, and just call this MCP tutorial. And then I can do the time. I can just, to make things a bit fast, I can just copy the time. You can also just put just the time alone or the date alone, but here I just decide to put the full time. And then, so this is going to be today, and then it stops 1 hour. So it starts at 8 o'clock and it ends at 9 o'clock. This is like German 24 hours time. Just here we can just put testing, it's not important. Test anything. And then the location, we can put like the link, it's not so important. Here you need to put a list of people that want to attend. So you can just put me at doesn't matter here. Change format. Okay. And then here all this doesn't matter. If you run it, set error validating. Okay. So here is supposed to be a list. I think now it should work. Yeah. And then so I'm now connecting to my calendar, and you see gives already access to it. And so now it says that it has connected to my calendar, and we're going to check. So if we go back to this MCP error timeout, why is it timing out? Let's see. Error timeout. Let's see what the problem could be. So we have the MCP error timed out. Okay, let's run it again. Oh, I know what happened. So sometimes the problem you have is once you make some mistake, it may not refresh. So what I just need to do is I can close this inspector, and then I come back here and I will run it. So Control C, and then I go back, I run here. So we have it again, just doing exactly what I did before. I copy again the path to the MCP server, and you have the UV here, and you need to replace it here. And then you need to add the configuration, which is already here. Okay. Sometimes you need to copy it well. You have the token here, and you add the token to this, and you connect. Then it's connected again, and you go to tools, you check your list of tools, you have this tool. Let me just, I have quickly copied some few things that I think you can add any one if you want. So the time, then the end time, and then the description doesn't really matter. Yeah, I can add the location also, doesn't really matter, but and just add this one. And then yeah, the attendee also, yeah, and try the format is right. Berlin, run, I've run this. So we have the server. I'm going to show you this already on Google Cloud, and then you can continue. This is done. Replace time how? Okay, another way to check is if we check on Google Cloud here. So this is what it's connecting to. It's connecting to this. So here is where you have all the credentials. And if it's timing out, we can create a new credential. So we can just come here, create a new credential. So I'm just trying to create a new credential from Google. Likely the credential we created before was outdated. Just let me check again. And we have timeout. MCP error Google. I've not seen this before. This is really strange. MCP error Google timeout. This, could you please? I'm just trying to see what could have been. No authentication. Really wondering why we have this. I know one of my certificates could be wrong. Okay, but the issue we have here is just one of my connections should be wrong, but I'm just going to also see how it works on cloud. So to see it work on cloud desktop, we can also just come here and we do also run MCP install MCP, and then it creates it adds this cloud Google Calendar MCP. And then if you go to cloud now, here now you're not going to see it because you come here, you check settings, and you check your developers. You still have this one. So what you need to do is to edit that and edit this. And you need to add the new thing. Where is that? Yeah, here. So okay, it's already added, but you can also, so here we already have it, and then we can close cloud. Sometimes cloud is just very funny. You need to close it for any new thing to be added to it. So we open it again. Let's see. Wow. So it says that something is wrong with MCP server disconnected for troubleshooting. Okay. So what could be wrong could be this here. We remove the applied demo from it. So the name of our MCP server is Google Calendar MCP, and then it has added everything that we need. Let's save it again, and then let's close this one.
John, is the server running? The MCP.
Which one?
The server. Is the server running on our cursor?
Yeah, it runs on, you can run on any of the clients, but you just need to close, because on cloud, if you don't close it, if you add a new server, you need to close it again and then check. What?
No, the server should be running, right? I don't think anything is running on the terminal, the server.
Oh yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's true. That's where yeah, that's true. So I should run MCP run. Yeah, exactly. That's why it's exactly what. Yeah, now it's running. I should see this one fails. Let me close it again. Let's see. So everything, you have the name, you have the command, and everything seems to be fine here. Saved it, and then I close this again. So everything is closed. Then I open it again. I hopefully it works this time around. The server is disconnected. What could have been the issue with server being disconnected? Let me see. Supposed to be
In plot desktop developer, it will also show MCP log.
let's see. Yeah, this is not. What? Why is it? Because
If you open MCP settings, there is a log option also which will show the log.
yeah, it should show me the logs. Logs. I don't know why it's not. What is logs here? Oh, transport is closed. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I know what the problem is. The problem is I need to change I needed to have changed the transport to SSE. So here I'm supposed to change it to SSE, and then also I need to add so if I change the transport to SSE, likely that was the issue. So I stopped my what's wrong with this? Yeah, so I stopped my server again. Stop user. Okay, so we can do let me see. Yeah, so I need to reinstall my XP card successfully installed, then MCP run. So developers okay, then I should be able to run it subsequently. MCP run. Okay, and if I go to cloud, because the log is telling me client server is closed indefinitely. I'm trying to figure out. Let's close this one completely. Quit. Let's see. There's no. Yeah, okay, everything is done. Let's check again. Wow, we still have this issue with the. Okay, let me just. I already. Something must be wrong with. Let me just use one of the chasing file I already had before because I don't know why. So if I come here and I go to settings, and my settings, I go to developers, edit, and I have this here. What's the name of this? Name of the MCP is Google Cloud. I'm wondering why it doesn't work. And here we have the name. Okay. Figure out this. Save. And then I can run it again. Now, let's see what could be wrong. Quit.
Is the MCP command correct, John? Whatever you are running the command.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MCP,
Run
the MCP command. Do you mean this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the MCP command should be correct. But let me just suspend it and if we run it again. So this MCP run. You can also check the documentation. Most of the time, there's no. If we check the documentation, MCP. If we check the documentation, we can see to run it, you install it, and then you can run it, MCP run. So it should be fine. Let me try again. MCP run. Let me see again. I've done it several times and it's still not working. I think
Maybe in a inspector, if you set the SSC settings, it might show some error.
what is it?
In an inspector, if we go and check with SSC, will we able to debug it faster?
Yeah. Okay, let me try. MCP run. Check here fails. I don't know. This one. Okay, you know what? Let me just use one of them up. Let me use the code I've written before because I don't know why this is not running, but we can just, I already have what I did previously that works. So let's just use that. So here we have similar thing we have. It's also similar thing we have, and then we can always run this something similar, but then you can, I can see it to the to Google see it to MCP demo, and then we can also run using just Google Calendar install. Okay, so I need to also like source again. Then we can run. Okay, this is already there, and then you can also run Google Calendar. Install, then you can run the dev. So it does not match the. Okay, let's check. This is okay. Let me move to what render can do because I think this. I will come back to what the error from the Google Calendar could have. Likely one of my problem is my .env, and I don't want to show all my credentials in the tutorial. That's why I'm very careful with it. But we can deploy it to production. I can show you how we can deploy it to production. So let's just try to deploy it to production. To deploy it to production, you need to have a GitHub profile. So what I did already is on GitHub, I already have I created like a demo. Let me see. So yeah, so the addition thing we did before. So we have the MCP tool here, and then I created also resources, but not so important. So you can always create a tool, and once you have the tool and then you have your code, you can go to what is called render.com, and on render.com you need to I already have a dashboard. So you go to your dashboard on render.com, you can add a web service. So here you can add something new, add a web service. Once you add a web service, you just so I connected it already to my GitHub. So you pick the particular repo you want to add to it. And once you do that, you're going to get something like this. So this one is just the code. This code is just this code that you see here. So this code you see here is called MCP tutorial. And then this code is what is deployed to this place. So if you see manual deployment, it just picks the code from GitHub and then it's going to deploy it. It's sometimes take some time to deploy. And once it's finished deploying, you are going to have an endpoint for your MCP server. And with the endpoint, you can use the endpoint in any code to do whatever you want to do. So that's the third way to deploy it on remote server. So what I've done previously that is a bit not working now is that normally I could connect my MCP to my Google Cloud and to my Google Calendar, and then automatically, if you want to do something, it automatically works. But why it's not working now, I know the reason why it's not working now. I need to create, but it's going to take some time to go over it. But just for you to know, if you want to do it, is you need to go to your Google API and services. And your Google API and services, you need to go to Google Calendar API. And your Google Calendar API, you need to create a new credentials, which is here. You need to create a new credentials. And once you create a credential, it's going to give you some credentials, which are these credentials that you have here. So you are going to get credentials. You have the Google refresh token, you have the Google ID, the Google client's secret, and then the project ID. So you put that in your .env. So what is happening now is because Google already is flagging it, because if you see my, if you go back, I see my metrics, Google already see that something is strange on my calendar. I need to increase the activation, the number of requests. So here you can see some things that have happened on my calendar. But let me see again if it works. So let's check this one. So this one is already deployed and it's live. To check it, you can go to your MCP tutorial vendor.com, and then you have, because you're using SFE as the transport, you run it, and then here you have the endpoints. You can add this endpoint to your, just like you do with normal REST endpoints, and then you can do whatever you want to do. That's how this works. Just to go back again to what we have. So this one, if it doesn't work on cloud, I can also run it on Inspector. So to run what I've done already previously on Inspector, all I just need to do is to run MCP dev, and then I have the Google Calendar. Okay, so when you have this kind of problem, it's mostly because of your environment. So you can deactivate and then reactivate it. So now deactivated, and you can do my source .env thing activate. So this is activated now, and then you can run Google. Why is this not?
John, given the time, can we take a few questions?
Yeah, we can take a few. We can take a few questions. I'm sorry that sometimes these things are just.
We call this a demo course.
Yeah.
So 20-30% of sessions it definitely happens. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, so but we can take questions, and I can answer your questions while I'm just trying to make sure this works. But if you have any questions, we can also take the questions.
We have a few questions in chat already.
Okay, can you ask the questions, please?
Yeah. Jika will come from the beginning. So Vishwadeep is asking if, with respect to tool calling, what MCP standardizes is the data format for message flow. Right? So is the understanding correct?
Can I go back to? Let me just move. So what did the person? Is there what? I'm trying to understand the question.
Yeah. So with respect to so how does MCP differ from like the actual tool calling is basically the question.
Oh, okay.
That is the data format for like the message flow between the code and the LLM. Is that what we are trying to do with MCP? Is that understanding right?
Yeah, so the difference between MCP and tool calling is that the difference between MCP and tool calling is that for tool calling, there is no standard. So imagine you, like what I mentioned, as I said, MCP is the USB-C of of AI. So if you just use tool calling, you're just connecting directly to the tool. If you're in the last section, you'll see that I explained different keys, where I said you have different keys and you can use it. So you can always use your tool, but the problem is if there's no standard way of using the tools, then you have to create different method of using the tools. But in this case, because the MCP has standardized everything, then you don't need to create the tools manually. You don't need to. You have a standard way of creating it that everybody can use it. One thing I can show you to prove that is.
Okay, I didn't ask that question properly. Visually, feel free to unmute and ask.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Bala. So hi, John. I was basically asking, so what does MCP standardize basically? So one thing is that it adds a descriptor in the tool so that the model can identify the tools with the descriptor. So that's a standard thing that you have to add a descriptor. And the second thing is that the message flow has to be through JSON RPC.
Yes.
So, and the follow-up question is that if it standardizes this, then what about the state and session management, like which otherwise through a LangChain agent tool, like I could have done. Now, how do I manage that with an MCP tool if I'm adding it as a wrapper?
So if you have the agent, anything your agent is going to do is going to be more. If you have your agent, you also have your agent is like a Python code, right? So then it gives you easy access to connecting to your Python code. Or what is the question exactly? I just want to understand exactly.
So the question is, my understanding is that MCP works well with external APIs. If there's an external API, we can convert it as a MCP server, and then the user on the MCP client side can use that API really well. But
Yeah.
if they are going to create some tools on their local machines or on their own like system, why do they need MCP for that? Why can't they use normal LangChain or Google ADK agents along with tool calling?
So yeah, perfect. So if I understand you, it's like let them give an example. So it's an example. What you're saying is like, okay, I use an iPhone previously, and the iPhone has a different charger. So why do iPhone need to change to USB-C when I can always use the previous charger that they have? So the only reason why people use MCP is because it's a standard that everybody already know, so it's easier for everybody to use what you have done, and it's easier for you to know if there's an error or if there's a problem. So it's just a standard, as you have mentioned before. You can do without using MCP. You don't have to use MCP, but if you use MCP, it just makes it easier for you to connect to other people and for other people to use what you have done. So you don't have to use MCP. You can work previously like how we did previously, but the only difference is it's just like, I'm sure you know things like the REST API, connecting different APIs together. You can connect it in a different way. The only reason why you have the standard is to make everybody have a standard way of doing things, and that it's easy to manage things when you're talking to other APIs and when you're working on other things. So that's why you have it. So you don't have to use MCP. You can create tool calling without MCP. You can also create whatever on your own separately. But the reason why we have MCP is just to make sure that everybody have the same standard and that the standard works.
Sure, thanks.
So a couple of other questions which are related. So do frameworks like LangGraph or Crew AI or Agno, etc., do they support MCP clients?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I showed you here. So I have this MCP client thing. I think it should be one of these. So we have the MC. I think I showed it somewhere. Okay, I can check. Yeah, example of MCP clients. Yeah. So if you check here, you are going to likely see if there's LangChain or whatever. So all the tools that support MCP, you have them here. So
We can't screen, sorry.
What
your
is
screen is not sharing.
I'm not sharing my screen. Oh, sorry. Oh my God, I'm not sure my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Yeah, can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have this MCP clients repo or page where you can see the list of all the clients that support MCP and what they can do. So you, as I mentioned previously, some of them support only tools, some of them support both tools and prompts and other things. So yeah, you have some list of them, but most people, as we use like Cloud Desktop, and some people use like Cursor, then some people use like Winsoft, and the Winsoft is down, and then there's also the WhatsApp MCP, which I've also tested before. But yeah.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Cool. So there is one question on using authentication while connecting to these MCP servers.
Yeah, actually, in my slides, I have it. Because of what happens late at the end of the day was why I didn't show. So you have also, let me see, view. I think I can't go. So the authentication for the MCP server, it's one big problem now. But there is already a way to do the authentication. So there is already
Just 2 days ago, if I remember correctly, authentication on MCP.
Yeah, there's a way to, because there is a way to have so if you see this this thing I showed you in the protocol, you can also have it in the code where you have the MCP in the code. You have what we call if you check here, let me show you, let me give you an example. So in this example, we have what we call environment variable, and then you can add the headers and all those kind of things that you use, what that are used for connecting to two different like server and the client. So you can have headers, and then you can have tokens, and that's why we have things like this. All these tokens are ways to authenticate things. So they're already ways of authenticating things.
John, there is actually that question also has one context. Like if you really see Figma MCP in cursor, I can set my key inside my cursor. I am able to set my key inside my cursor. It is not really at the server end. Server at SSE end is purely open. I am able to set my key, but I was trying to implement a similar thing in my MCP that my client should be able to set his key in his prod desktop and send it as an environment variable, but that is not happening. Environment variables need to be on the server. Now that won't work, right? Okay, because, and specifically if I have 2-3 environment variables, I don't know how to pass them from a desktop end, because those are not server variables, those are the client variables.
Okay. Yeah. So as I showed you, okay, I'm going to delete my audio. At the end of the day, I would try to delete my because it's going on YouTube, but I'll just show you an example. So normally, you know .env, right? Can you see my screen?
We can see the cloud window.
Yeah. So on the here, I think, where do I have my .env? Okay, here. I'm going to delete it. Here we have your .env. These are my Google environment variable. And these variables are going to be passed to, the reason why I'm getting the error is likely because one of these variables have changed, and then I need to regenerate it on Google. That's why you have getting the error, because I already tested it previously. So if you already have it on your .env and you pass it when you create your client, you can also pass your environment variable from your server to your client. Do you understand?
No, it is other way around. Actually, I might be like, if you look at the Figma implementation in cursor, every user has his own environment key.
Yes.
And I'm able to set up my environment key inside the cursor, and it goes to Figma's MCP server.
Yes.
So client is sending a key to server.
Yeah.
Server is not sending a key to client. So I'm trying to figure out how to send keys from a client to server.
Okay, so you're saying so client send key to server, and server can also send key to. So client can send key to server, server can send key to client. Example of what I showed you now. So here you have everything you have here is on the client, right? This is the client.
Okay.
This is the client. What you have here is the server, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So you can
Correct.
have your environment variables on your client on your server here, and you can also have your environment variable on your client.
Okay. Because I was not able to define in an inspector you have that option, but I was not able to do it in a cloud desktop.
Yeah, on cloud desktop, the thing is on cloud desktop you can do the same thing on cloud desktop, but then you know that on cloud desktop you can I think so on cloud desktop you have arguments and you also can have other things apart from arguments.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can
Okay.
you can also define things here. So it's not just command. If you go to cloud, if you go to MCP server argument, you will see that there are a lot of things you can have. I just removed few things you can do, but it will check on it. You can have like different, not this one, but here in your JSON file, you can add more things, not just the command and the argument. You can also add environments here.
Okay. Okay. I'll explore that. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. And more questions?
Yeah, I guess.
Do you have more questions?
No, I think that's all we have.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that these didn't really work as I expected, but I actually tried it before and it works. The major issue I have, which I don't want us to waste some time, especially because I'm on YouTube, is that the fact that you need to. Google is a bit funny when they are doing things. You need to recreate your authentication. And once you create your authentication, it's going to generate new client keys, new everything is going to be new, because you can see that the errors we get here is more like it cannot connect to the Google to Google Google Calendar. So these are some issues that are, I think, on my last slide, on the last slide, there was already some few things that we I think escape here. I do play. Yeah, on the last slide, you can see. Can you see my screen? I'm still sharing my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are the issues that we have, and these are some of the things that you are that I'm also facing now. The thing you have mostly is sometimes people can create some servers that can do something that are very funny, which is what they call command injection. You also have where you can use your tools to do something that has issues. The issue I just face now is this SS event problem. So there's sometimes, which is if you are sending some credentials from your client to your server, you need to make sure everything is done properly. That's why you have sometimes issues and latency with this SSE. When it was when it was just standard IO, it was good. But once you start mixing things with these a lot of credentials, then things get a bit funny. And then there's also sometimes the privilege issues that if you create a server and the server doesn't give the full privilege to the client, and then it cannot send enough or doesn't send the right information to the client, you also have issues like that. And then sometimes you have this what we call passive context, that it passes some information that you already sent to the client and from the client to the server. And then there's sometimes, because these tools can have access to, I could have showed you an example of WhatsApp. The WhatsApp already takes over your old WhatsApp. So it can do a lot of things, do things with your WhatsApp. So these are some of the issues that we face presently when it comes to like using MCP. Yeah, so that's just the basic thing. But again, one thing you should just, even if what you should take out from what we did today is there are different ways for you to deploy your MCP. You can deploy it using this MCP Inspector. You can use cloud server, cloud and desktop, and the rest of them. You can also deploy. You can deploy online, like I did here. This one is already working. It's deployed. You can deploy it on render, and then it creates an endpoint to use. So that is one thing you should also know. Another thing you should know, which is very important, is the different ways of connecting, which is like either you connect with the standard IO, or you connect with the SSE, and you connect to the streamable HTTP. So those are things that are quite important from what we have presently with MCP servers.
Super. John, would it be possible for us to get the code as well as PPT so that we can share with the community?
What do you say?
The code that you showed, right? If
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
wants to play around with the
I'm
code,
going to, I will do it. I will work on it to make sure it works, and then I will share the code. I'll share the code with you. I will also put the documentation to make sure everything works well, and then I will also. You will need to use. You need to have a Google Cloud credential for things to work, which is where things get sometimes funny. But I will also put links to how you can get your Google Cloud credentials, and then where to add it, and hopefully everything should be able to work properly.
lovely. I think, I mean, with these two sessions, I think we're able to understand what MCP is and taking all the way to production. I think this has been haunting us for a while, if I have to put it that way. But really, really appreciate you taking time out and doing these two sessions for us on MCP, John.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Thanks everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye.